Hello, Mayor Schewel. How are you?
How are you, Rochelle? Good to see you.
Good to see you as well. I haven't seen you, seems like forever. How are things going?
I, I feel like I haven't seen anybody forever except over the Zoom.
Yeah, exactly.
How are you doing? Are you healthy and safe?
Oh yeah, yes we are. We are all doing well, staying indoors, wearing masks, and doing all the things we're supposed to do to stay safe.
Yeah, good.
And I think you are too, yes?
I am. I occasionally have to go out, but I try not to do it too much.
Okay.
I'm
And
wor- I'm working from home.
will the city go back to normal operations at some point, or will you stay as you are for indefinite time?
I know that we'll start sometime in July. We will be beginning to open up certain of the functions at City Hall on a limited basis.
Yeah, that
So I think it's like everybody trying to phase things back in and figure out how to do it safely, kind of a little bit at a time.
yeah. I just saw the email from President Price that they're going to open the university this fall with an updated kind of schedule, so not the normal fall semester. So that seems like we are making some progress in the direction of getting back to some normalcy, whatever that may mean.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, Mayor Schewel, go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
No. The way this works, I ask you to tell us your name and share anything about you that you want us to know, and we'll go from there. So, please tell us your name.
Steve Schewel.
Mayor Steve Schewel.
And I'm the mayor of Durham, North Carolina, and proud to be the mayor of this great city.
Yes, absolutely. Anything else you want to share about you that will help us get to know you a little better?
Well, I'm 69 years old. I was born in Lynchburg, Virginia, and I lived my childhood in this very small, segregated southern town. Grew up in the civil rights movement, and my parents were liberals and civil rights liberals, and I think mainly actually because of their religious faith, were Jewish, and I think that they really took the social justice aspect of Judaism very seriously. And I came to Duke in 1969 to be a freshman, and I've stayed in Durham ever since. I was in graduate school briefly 1 year at Columbia, New York, and pretty much have been here other than that ever since. And just feel very fortunate to have been in Durham during these very interesting times, seeing the city progress. It's not a straight line of progression. There are ups and downs. We've had our definitely, as you know, Rochelle, we've had our difficulties, but it's a city that works together. One of the interesting things about Durham, I think, is we really have racial power sharing, but a lot of cities don't have. You look at our city council, our county commission, our school board, and I think that that's really indicative of who we are and the diversity of those groups. And I'm just, happy to be here to talk to you today, and very, as I say, very grateful for being in Durham now. Even the city is very resilient, and I think even in these hard times of both COVID-19 and then the protests and the aftermath of the murder of George Floyd, which, I'm very supportive of the protests. I think that we need those protests because people need to speak out against what has happened. That our city is a very robust democracy. Everybody feels they have a voice. They speak out, which is great. And we all have to work to make the city we love a city for all.
How long have you been mayor?
I have been mayor. I was elected in 2017 and reelected in 2019. So I've been mayor not quite 3 years.
Does the mayor term, is it unlike like say presidents, they can only be presidents for 8 years, and other representatives, can the mayor be the mayor forever?
Theoretically, you could. As you know, Bill Bell was mayor for 16 years. He's our longest serving mayor.
Yeah.
And Bill is a mentor to me. I mean, I known Bill for many, many years, and being able to sit on the city council while Bill was mayor, I learned a lot just sitting and watching Bill. But I'm not interested in being mayor that long. Besides which,
What?
I'm pretty old. I'll do it a little bit longer, but not too much.
Well, we are very happy you are here. You are an amazing mayor. I can tell you all of my experiences with you. You go to funerals, you know, you talk to kids, you do all kinds of things which are probably not descriptive of what your role as mayor is, but you always show up. You always show up.
Thank
And you
you.
show such genuine kindness and concern. And I am very, very grateful that I know you and I can call you my friend. I
Thank you.
remember when Governor Cooper appointed Keith Gregory to the Superior Court. He wanted to talk to you. And I'm like, okay, you do know he's busy, right? So we're going to figure out how we can make this work. But you made time for him, and I think you've done that just so
Well, it's because you asked me to.
well. But I just think it's
That was a good recommendation.
yeah, well, thank you very much. But I just think that's a part of your character because you are always, if people need something from you, you're always willing to give it or try to figure out how to make it so. And I think that's a wonderful
Thank you.
power
Thank you.
and characteristic to have. So, Mayor, I want to ask a couple of questions, and please feel free if you don't feel it's appropriate to respond to it, we can move on from the question. What did you think or feel when you saw what happened to Mr. Floyd?
I'll tell you my first feeling was when I saw the video and I looked into that officer's eyes and they were cold. They were cold. And that inhumanity was the first thing that I felt. More just how someone could be that just inhuman. They didn't even feel that they were relating to another human being that they had under their knee.
Right.
And it was just horrifying. I mean, I just think everybody had to feel that. And that was the first feeling. I think my second feeling was that this is indicative of so much more. That it was symbolic almost of just the inequalities and the oppression that still exists, and that our African American residents still struggle under that yoke. I think that was the second thing that I felt.
My husband has quite a few friends that are police officers or were police officers or sheriffs throughout the state of North Carolina. And almost everyone that I've talked to have said a lot of this is just training, right? So like when to escalate and when to de-escalate. Like if you feel your body's in harm's way, then you should use deadly force. But I mean, there are so many other tools in the arsenal of the police that action does not have to be the first thing is to shoot somebody or something. And and we see them that you keep going back. You can go back to Trayvon Martin. You can go back to James Byrd in 1990. There's just so many of them that are just, and it's like what you said, I think is really the case is that maybe some groups do not see Black and brown people as human, as if we're going back to slavery when we were chattel or 3/5 of a person or something. I mean, I don't even understand it because it's just unfathomable to me that you could put your knee on somebody's neck for 8 minutes and 46 seconds and have your hand in your pocket.
And have your hand in your pocket.
Right. That part is just so, I don't even know how to even process that. And to hear him call for his mother who had been dead for a while. I mean, it was just so heartbreaking. And yet you have people who are very nonchalant about it. The things happen. Well, I guess that's true. Things do happen, but my God,
Well, I think that, so here's some thoughts. I'd love to hear what you think about this or what your husband thinks. So I agree that training is really important, de-escalation training, but there was something about the look in that officer's eyes that was way beyond training. He knew that he had a man under his knee that was dying And I don't think any training can get to that level of dehumanizing another person. I do know that in a lot of cases, training really does matter. You know, de-escalation training and racial equity training. I mean, Chief Davis has instituted both of those in Durham, and they've been a big help.
Yep. Yep.
And, you know, the way our police have handled the protests have been great. I mean, they've been very far away, help people exercise their rights to speech and rights to assemble, and those are training issues. And so I think training can really matter. But there was something about the look in that officer's eyes and the way he had his hand in his pocket that just seemed almost just pure evil to me.
I think that too. You know, the thing that's hard about it, though, you know, it's like, is he a member of a part of our population, world population, that sees Black and brown people in such ways that they can do this with impunity? You know, like they don't have any, you know, no fear, you know, because we had Rodney King, you know, and I mean, they moved to a more predominantly white part of town, and none of the officers were convicted. We had riots and burning and looting and all of that stuff, you know, but it just seems like it just keeps happening no matter what we do. It keep happening. You know, we pass legislation, we do all this training and all this work, but yet and still 3 weeks after Mr. Floyd died, they killed another man in Atlanta, you know, who's running away. You know, I mean, to me, I think deadly force is only when someone is coming toward your person and you do not have a way to protect yourself other than to do that. Because as some of the officers have told me, you know, they have rubber bullets, they have, you know, tasers, they have all these other tools that they could use to stop someone in their tracks, you know, so why deadly force? You know, and that's what's really hard for me to understand, is why deadly force specifically for Black and brown people.
No reason for it.
Yeah.
And I think you're right, though, that there are these people don't see Black and brown people as human.
Yeah.
They don't.
Yeah.
They don't. I really think that, even today.
Yeah, I agree with you. But you know, your people as well. I mean, like, you know, we've had, you know, under this current administration in the White House, we have had people feel like it was, you know, okay to say things to people of Muslim or Jewish faith, you know, treat people like they were for doing nothing but just living their lives and going about their lives. You know, this makes no sense at all. You know, I mean, it's just kind of one of those things where you just shake your head. What, are we in 21st century? Or are we still back in 1619 or 1834 or something? Where are we? You know, so it's really, really hard to see. I have a question.
Well, and I think you're right. I think it's part of it is the sort of the tone from the top, right?
Yep. And he is he's a different kind of guy. You know, I mean, you know, when you were watching him on TV, when he had a reality show, there's no way you would have ever got that he would be this man that he is today, you know, so it's really interesting. But I have a question for you, and I want to know what your thoughts are about this. So last year, when we had the Mexicans coming across the border for a better life, bringing their children, you know, whatever, their whole families across for a better life, and you had parents separated from children put in cages and holding places near prisons and all of these kind of things. Like, is that a policy that allows that to happen? I mean, how is it? Because it's so reminiscent of slavery, right? So you have children torn away from their parents and things. How does something like that happen?
I think that in this case, it's what you were talking about before. It's the man in the White House. I mean, it was his policy. And I don't know how people can live with themselves who separate families, children from their families. And a lot of those children, they're still not reconnected.
Right.
It is reminiscent of slavery, I agree, where families were sold apart.
Yeah.
And, you know, we see the worst of that. I mean, that always strikes me as, I mean, I don't see how people do that to children. I don't. But I mean, it was deliberate policy. And how, I don't know, President Trump is so, especially after Obama, who was so humane, collegial, worked with other people, tried to find a path for that everybody could, move along together. Had just, the incredible dignity of the office, and now we have the polar opposite situation, and I think that's part of what's so striking about it, is who he succeeded.
Yeah, and I mean, even going back and looking at presidents, Reagan, he had, the DARE program, just say no, and all of those things. But even Reagan was not like this. I mean, uh, I'm a huge historian, and I love to read about history. And the parallel I bring to this president is Nixon. So if you go back and look at Nixon, there are lots of parallels between these two people. I mean, Nixon did not like the press. He thought everybody was out to get him, and he's always toting how great he was,
Right.
how great things he has done. And the parallels between those two presidents is really, really kind of mind-boggling that, we have two of them, because not all the presidents have been great, but none of them have been inhumane or whatever. But Nixon was kind of that way. And this one is that way. I don't say his name on purpose. Is that way, because I mean, to me, it's just like, if you have that much power, and you, so for in your example, you're the mayor of Durham, you can pull a committee together and work on a policy to do something. I am almost 100% certain if you were developing a policy, and I don't care what the policy was for, you'd be inclusive. You consider the voices of people who are talking to you, as opposed to being kind of like this aristocrat that just wakes up and says, hey, this is what we're going to do today. I mean, and it's hard for me to understand how someone can think like that in a leadership role. You're in charge.
I really think he does what you said. I think he wakes up in the morning, he looks on Fox News or something, he hears from one person, and then he tweets out something, and all of a sudden it's policy.
Right.
And it's just, he can't be really listening to people. And it's not even ideological. I mean, I didn't agree with George W. Bush a lot, but he wasn't this kind of person.
Right.
He was a person that sincerely cared. He did his best for the country. He did include a lot of people in the decisions he made. I didn't agree with him a lot, but that's different than this. This is so far beyond that.
Yeah.
I hope and pray that people will see that in November, and that our voting system works. That's the other thing I'm worried about in November.
Me too. I am too, because I mean, like, if they do absentee balloting because of the COVID virus or mail-ins or whatever, they get lost. We had when George Bush Jr. became the president, he and Gore were in the Supreme Court talking about chips, so, did somebody punch or did they not, so, and I don't think this person is above doing whatever it takes to get reelected. I mean, I think he'd do anything he could, and
oh yeah.
One of the good things, though, is during the midterm, he lost a lot of seats. The Republicans lost seats. The question just is they still have governors who are Republicans and who control the Board of Elections and all those kinds of things. So it's a very interesting time to think about that, and think about what that's really going to look like.
I mean, I think voter suppression is real. I think that they're very, very intent on it. I don't think that they are interested at all in expanding the electorate. I think they're interested in reducing the electorate. And that is the one factor that worries me the most in November, I think.
When Floyd McKissick was the chair of the Durham Democratic Party, I was his, I guess, secretary, and then I had a volunteer role in the Board of Elections, and I kind of understood how voting worked and all of those things, and why they make decisions, because like people always think that everybody that's running is going to be on your ballot. Well, if you're not in Congressman Price's district, you're not going to find his name on your ballot, and so there's a lot about voter education that needs to happen beyond just go to the polls, early voting or primary, whatever. But I think voter education is important. And I think, you know, although we're registering people to vote, we need to make sure people understand what they're doing in the polls, as opposed to just going there checking off some names. Because a lot of times, you know, you might have a ballot where you've got 12 names on it, you only heard 2 of them. So now you just, you know, it's you know, a chance. You know, you're just, you know, picking a name because you think that might be a right name. And I think that voter education should be something that every city, state, county, whatever it is, starts doing very, very early before we get to the place where we are making that final decision, because you may find yourself surrounded by people who are not share your values or your beliefs or whatever. So, you know, I think that that's really, really important to have that kind of education, especially for Black and brown people who we know that somebody died for us to vote, but we don't always understand, you know, well, okay, you know, this is not the president vote, or this is, you know, you have to vote and you have to understand what you're doing when you vote, you know. And so I think it's important that happens. And, you know,
let me ask you something, Rochelle.
Yes, sir.
Do you think that just the fact that we have COVID-19 is going to reduce voting? That people are just going to not want to, especially on election day? I mean, maybe
older people. The young people are going to go out and vote. You know, but what made Obama win both terms was because Black people went out regardless, no matter how bad they felt, no matter what was wrong with them, whatever it is, they went out and vote. I think that because we're all so afraid, and, you know, like, you know, I'm in a high risk category. I have a son with a compromised immune system. So I've got all these fears, and my husband's a 3rd grade teacher. So I think you went and talked to his class once. But I think that, you know, I've heard people say that COVID is a hoax. I've heard a lot of white people say this is a hoax. These numbers aren't really real. This isn't really what's happening, you know. And what I think for some people who aren't familiar with the entire process of a system, you know, so health, wealth, you know, justice, inequality, equality, and all these things. So when you put all that out there and you've got to go out and vote on November something or another, you're struggling with my life, or do I vote? You know, and I think there are a lot of people who want to see this man no longer be president, but depending on where we are with this virus, you know, it started to, you know, go up again, you know, and I don't know why that is. Maybe because of the protests, I don't know. But we're seeing a lot more cases of this. So schools are rethinking how they do schools. I mean, Duke is, you know, UNC, all the school systems in our areas are thinking about that. The public school systems, the private schools, all are thinking about how to they do this. And what happens the first time a student dies in Durham Public School because we made him come back? Or what happens if a student dies at Duke because we made him come back, or faculty or anybody dies because we said, well, you got to go back? And to me, that's that equation where you're putting money over life. You know, you're trying to balance whether money over life, because we have managed to do most of what we do remotely now, you know, mostly thanks to people like me, technologists.
That's true.
But really, if we had a fair and equitable electoral system, I think we could change the outcome. But I think if COVID continues to process like it is, people are terrified, you know, older people are, younger people seem to be, you know, comfortable with not wearing face coverings, gloves, or any of that stuff. But older people are going to be hesitant to go out unless there's another. And that's what I'm afraid of. That's what I'm really
I'm afraid of that too. I'm real worried about it. That was interesting to hear what you had to say about it.
Because I mean, I just think that being, you know, I'm 61, and, you know, I'll be 62 this year, and my health is not great, and my son's health is not great. So I wouldn't risk I can die, you know, so if I die, I can die. I've already lived, you know, but I wouldn't want to do that. My 21-year-old son, who hasn't even started life yet, you know, because I decided to make a choice to go out and do something. It's why we haven't gone out and protest. It's why we go to the grocery store only when we have to. We take off our clothes and bathe as soon as we come in the house before we even get anywhere near our son, because we aren't sure what this could do to him. So when you think about that in a larger context, many people don't have the problem that I have, but they do have chronic health issues, hypertension,
Yeah.
heart trouble, asthma, COPD, whatever it is, they have that. So it's a very interesting thing to think about. And I
Do
would,
you think you all will vote absentee? Will you do a mail-in ballot?
I would, but I think I would go vote. I need to go
Mhm.
know that my ballot went through that machine.
Yeah, I like to do that too.
Yeah,
I'll go to early voting
yeah, and that's what we
when
will.
there's not many people there.
Right, right. That's probably what we will do too. And normally we vote at Duke, so since I work there, I just go and vote, and my husband goes and vote. Now that my son is old enough to vote, we go vote there. And normally it's not very many people there at all because
Yeah.
students, and these students from all over the world. So, they don't have the same issues that we are facing. So absolutely. I need to know my ballot went through the machine and it's counted, because
Yeah.
I don't want someone to say, well, it got lost in the mail, or, whatever, so so yes, I do believe I will go vote, even in my health situation. It just means I have to come home and, and bathe and wash my hair and all that stuff. But I literally, yes, I would go vote. That's what I've always said, one of the things that and for as long as we've known each other. I mean, like when you were running for reelection, what do you need us to do? Tell us what you need us to do. And you said, put the yard sign for the affordable house. We put the yard sign in all of our neighbors. We made copies of it and put it in all of our neighbors' yards, so that we do that. Because we live in a pretty diverse neighborhood. And so, people were
Thank you.
really,
I'm glad you did that.
absolutely. When you ask it, all you have to do is say, Rochelle, do it, and I'm doing it, so no worries about that. But I want to ask just a couple of the questions if I can. So
Sure.
are you optimistic that this current moment in time is going to bring about a different change?
I am optimistic, but I'd say two things. One is I'm old enough now to have seen a lot of positive change in race relations over the years and in opportunity. And I'm also old enough to have seen a lot of setbacks. So I think it could be a time for progress, but that's not inevitable, that we have to make it a time for progress.
Right.
And one of the good things is I don't think the young people are going to let us forget that.
We hope. They
And
have a short attention span.
They do have a short attention span. You're right. But I just think that they are so passionate now. And it's hard. I tell you, sometimes being mayor in this situation is hard because people are angry, and I get why they're angry.
Yeah.
And they should be angry. And so can we channel that into positive change? I think we can. I know we can make some changes in our policing. We have to. And, right here in Durham, we're looking at our use of force policies. The chief we have a great chief,
Yeah.
Rochelle.
Yeah.
You know that. And she's looking at our use of force policies, and our use of force policies are good, but we want to make sure they're really like they need to be.
Right.
And, but just far beyond that, in terms of economic equality, one of the things that I believe in is reparations. We have here Dr. Sandy Darity and his wife, Kirsten Mullen, and, they are national authorities on this, and they have support national legislation for reparations, and so do I.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the ways that we could help create more economic equality. Yeah. And I think that, so we, at the council, we passed a resolution calling on Congress to pass reparations legislation. And Sandy and Kirsten asked us to do that. And now I've talked to the mayor of Louisville, who's the incoming mayor of the U.S. Conference of Mayors, about putting that on his national agenda. And I think that's going to happen. So I think there are a lot of things that need to happen around economic equality, and they're, health equity, issues that are far beyond policing.
Right.
Policing is an issue, but it's only one issue in this system that we live in of systemic racism. It is real and it's very pervasive.
Yeah.
So I don't think we can just attack one thing and make it work. We've got to do a lot of different things.
Yeah.
Housing, jobs, health equity, good schools for everybody. These are big lifts, but we can do. I mean, we've done a lot of great things in our country just in my lifetime and your lifetime. We know that. And so I'm optimistic. Yeah.
I think I am. I tell people this in the same minute. I'm pessimistic and optimistic in the exact same minute every single time I come across, because we've been here before. We've been at this place where things have happened, and we've seen protests and rioting and looting and all the bad parts of making your voice heard. And we don't make very much progress, very forward, and one of the things that I always say is talk about diversity, right? And not just diversity of color, but diversity of thought. And my analogy always is a box of crayons with only white crayons in it. What comes from that? What can you make from a box of Crayola crayons that are all white?
Mm-hmm.
So when you walk out your door, you see trees of every iteration of color, flowers, everything. So whoever it was that made this universe, God, or however you want to take, did not see that we needed a box of all white crayons. We needed diverse trees. We needed diverse everything in order to make the universe beautiful as it is, even with pollution and environmental issues and stuff. But still, we needed all of that to bring us to where we are. I mean, like the flag behind you, I mean, those beautiful colors. Just imagine if that was just a white flag with white stars, nobody would know what that was,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So I think that's one of the things that's important. I also want to ask you this last question, because I know you are very busy, so I won't keep you, but I just want to ask you one last question. So
Sure.
You think this is going to happen in my lifetime?
I think we're going to continue to make slow progress. I because of what you said, we know that I just have rarely seen a great leap forward.
Yeah.
But slow, steady progress, I think we can make. Yeah. Yes. I mean, we can change the economic equation. I really think we can. That where, Black and brown people's wealth in this country is just a fraction of whites. Well, that doesn't have to be this way. And yeah, in our lifetime, can we make some progress on that? Yes, we can. And that's where I think reparations comes in. And I think that that in policing, yes, we can make changes. There are a lot of things that I ride with police officers, young officers on a Saturday night, just to learn and experience what they go through. It's such a hard job.
Yes, it is.
I could not do it. They run towards danger.
Right.
And they have to make all these very, very difficult judgments instantaneously. Mm-hmm. And a lot of the things they deal with are not crime. They're a mental health emergency. There's a guy got drunk and fell down in the middle of the road. I mean, these are calls that I've been on. A child can't be found, And then we have officers who are really not trained. They have crisis intervention training, which is great, but they're not truly trained mental health counselors or social workers. And there's some times where I think we can really change who we dispatch to some of these calls. Yeah. And we can get a clinical social worker to show up at a call where they're needed. Yeah. And so I think there are things we can do with economic justice, with policing, and in other realms where we can make. I really think we can make a change.
Yeah, I do too. I think what I think, again, what you said, I mean, so if you take you and I, so you are the mayor, you are, well-known, recognized, and all these things. And I'm just a Durham citizen, a technologist. I just know you by my family. And we have a friendship. If people of all groups could just do that, I mean, if you're in charge of everything in the world, and there's some person that's not that high up in the world. They don't have the same access and responsibilities as you do, but become friends to actually see the humanity in each other. That's what I believe would change the world, is that if we could do that, if we could just look at each other and say, well, I don't think that's a great idea, but I'm willing to entertain it. I'm not going to shoot you down for it. I'm willing to be your friend. One of the things I told one of the people I spoke to the other day, who always says, I have Black friends. And that's one of those statements is that you kind of stop and think, what did that person really say? And I said back to him, well, I have white friends, but I didn't know what either one of us meant by what we said, because I don't know what that statement means. And so I think we have to find some way to partner with each other, even with our differences. Like you're riding with a police officer, like that's not in your job, not your responsibility, but you're trying to understand and learn how that works. I think that kind of partnership needs to happen across all kinds of spectrums, every step of the way, every step of the way. Like, I can almost assure you that there's going to be a tremendous resistance to reparations. I mean, just on every single level you can imagine, because you're going to say, well, how do we know you were an ancestor or a slave? How do you, all of these things. But I do think that if you could if someone could see you as a human being, if you could pick up the phone and say, hey, I just want to come have lunch, or can we chat, and you can do that. I think that is the bridge that may fix us, that kind of thing. Yeah.
What I'll tell you what I think about that too, Rochelle, which is this. I think that starts with our kids going to school together.
I agree.
I really think the fact that my kids grew up in Durham Public Schools with every kind of kid in their class, they're comfortable with every kind of friend and every kind of person. And I worry that I don't want our schools to become resegregated. And because I think going to school together and forming those relationships as a young person that you're talking about is so crucial. So yeah, I think you're absolutely right. It's got to be person to person.
Person to person. I mean, I think the one little other thing I'll just say to that is we teach racism, we teach bigotry, we teach prejudice in our homes, not in schools, but in our homes. And then we tell those people to go out into the world. And so when your mother or father, whoever it is, has told you, well, don't like Black people or don't like white people or whatever, sometimes that stuff becomes so embedded in your mind that you say, well, my mom or dad told me not to do this, so I'm not going to do this, so yeah. It's a really interesting time, and I'm so grateful that you had time for me. Thank you so much
for having time for having me, Rochelle. I appreciate it.
Oh, absolutely.
It's nice to see you in the Zoom context, even if we can't sit across the table.
Absolutely, and I'm hoping one day we may sit across the table.
We will.
Yeah. Well,
I'm confident that we will.
Well, very, very good. Once this video converts, I'm going to send a link to Amber.
Great.
So, and then you can watch it with her, and then you can tell me whether I can upload it or not. Is that okay?
You can upload it. You have my permission.
Oh, I can upload it now?
Whenever you want.
Oh, okay. Okay. Sure. Okay. Well, I will, and I'll let you know when it's yeah. Okay. And I'll let you know when it's uploaded. Thank you very much, sir. And good luck. And if you need me, you know what to do. Just pick up the phone or send an email.
I will.
I'm running on the way.
Thank you.
Sir. Thank you. Be
safe.
Take
care.
You too. Be safe.
Bye-bye.
Bye.